Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Warhammer 40k Tier 9 Mercenary Premium Light Tank, the Teefbreaka STB-1. Yep, the Teefbreaka. It's the STB-1, but at Tier 9 and made into a light tank. My initial impressions on this tank are, I don't really like it, if I'm totally honest. It has a meme quality to it, and it's very much like the AMX 1357 at Tier 7, that when you catch people out and they are fully unawares and you start unloading on them with this gun, it's absolute memes. You rack up damage really quickly, and it's that fun pew 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 kind of gameplay. But at the same time, in terms of effectiveness in a battle, especially in a lot of Tier 10 games, and especially where there's a bit of armour, this tank really struggles quite badly because it is an STB-1, as you can see. It's big and fat, which means it's exceptionally easy to hit. And it happens all the time where you get two shots, you start dropping shots into people, and then they just basically RBRT and hit you instantly. And it happens all the time, especially if you're on the move. You just don't seem to avoid any of those shots. And it's that kind of run-and-gun gameplay that it wants as well, and it just really struggles with it. It's an assassin of a light tank though, so if you do catch people out unawares, you just wreck them really quickly. But the thing is, if they start paying attention to you, it starts becoming a lot harder for it to do anything at all. And a lot of the light tanks do the same job as this, but just far better. To be honest, if I was in any light tank, I'd probably rather be in stuff like a 1390, I'd rather be in than this. You know, if you're talking about auto-loaders. And realistically, and a lot of the other light tanks are just nicer than it in general anyway, because they've got better camo, better guns, etc, etc. Not a big fan of it, as you can tell, but it does have meme potential, so you can have those really memey games where just mad stuff happens and you go, that was quite fun. But they're not all the time, if I'm totally honest. So without further ado, let's get into the stats. Oh, the other thing is, this tank is obviously... Do I think it initially think it's worth the gold? I don't think so, not realistically. It's 17,900 gold. No chance there's anything worth that much gold in this game. But on the discount that you're going to be able to get from the Warhammer op, maybe. It might be. It depends if it looks like it's your kind of tank for the memes. But it's way too much gold, essentially, for what it is. And you'll be frustrated more often than not in the tank, unfortunately. So here's the stats for the Teefbreaka STB-1. You've got 880 horsepower with a 62 km/h top speed and a 24 km/h reverse speed with a 35.37 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you hit the top speed really easily. The other thing that this tank has is a turbo mode, but the turbo mode is much like the Wheelie Boys. That's the way it is. The travel mode, fight mode, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. It's got a different mode, and the top speed in that mode is 75 kilometers an hour, sorry. So you can actually get up to 75 kilometers an hour by just, for me, it's pressing left on the D-pad, but whatever button would be to deploy siege mode for you guys, it's that button. And there's no punishment between switching between the two, so you can get up to really fast speed, or then you can drop down to 62 kilometers an hour. It's just when you're in that travel mode, the gun becomes absolutely horrific, and you basically never hit anything. So when you go into fight mode and you want to go assassinate something, you switch back from the really quick mode back into the standard 62 kilometers an hour, and you'll have good gun handling and you can try and assassinate. You've got 1,300 hit points, which is around about in line with most of the Tier 9 lights. It's a decent amount of hit points for a light tank at Tier 9. You've got 48 degrees a second hull rotation, which is pretty quick, but for such a long chassis, tends to feel pretty sluggishly slow when you're trying to go around things. And realistically, this thing wants to go around things. So it's a bit annoying at times in that regard, that it does feel just that little bit slow. You might want to run something like clutch braking to make it quicker, I don't know. You might run the traction system, which makes it better too, and makes it turn on a sixpence. It does turn quickly, it's just deceptively slow because of how long the tank is, for me. 1.7 soft terrain, 0.8 on medium and 0.7 on firm. The terrain resistances are fantastic. Again, with the horsepower per ton ratio as well, you smash the top speeds really easily in this tank. You've got 318 meters of still concealment, which you can knock down to 265 with the camo net. Again, it's not the stealthiest of the light tanks at Tier 9. A lot of the other Tier 9 light tanks are hitting around pretty much the same camo, realistically. or you can get it even far better down to like 220, 230. Something to bear in mind, this is just not the stealthiest tank in the universe, and like I say, it is also big and fat, which means when it gets spotted, it's easy to snap. It's got 390 meters view range as well, which I think for the tier 9 lights is okay, but I think they're all also starting to breach 400. I mean, I can't tell actually with these, but yeah, there we go. We'll see when we get it fully equipped to see where we land in terms of the stats for it. But yeah, let's carry on with the old stats. We have 42 degrees a second in terms of the turret rotation speed, which is slower than your tracks, so bear that in mind again, that your turret will not keep up with your track traverse, so if you're fighting something, keep it on the side that you're traversing. You've got a 0.96 accuracy during rotation, which isn't the best, so you'll want to make that better with vert stabs, especially when you're playing the run and gun playstyle. 15 degrees of max elevation and 8 degrees of gun depression. 8 degrees of gun depression is fine. You'll work most ridgelines with that. But to be honest, you're not going to be a ridgeline sniper with this tank because the gun doesn't really allow you to do that effectively. And if you were to sit there trying to fight hull down against things, well, you just get trashed very, very easily. You got a 20.5 second reload, which I think was down to like 13 seconds or 14 seconds, something like that. We'll see when we get to fully pimped out. Decent reload for what you actually have, because you have a 15 clip auto-loading 80 damage shell clip, and you wreck things really, really goddamn quickly without realising it. It's like one of those things when you fire the whole clip and you pen most of them, and you all of a sudden just look at your damage total and go, whoa, I've got a big damage. Wow, okay. You got 0.38 accuracy, which... yeah, 0.38 accuracy isn't the best, but again, a lot of the light tanks are having this at this tier, so it's not the worst either. Again, you can knock it down with stuff like steady aim, snapshot, run and gun, etc. Accuracy during movement at 3.06 is also absolutely abysmal. You want to make this better with run and gun and with vert stabs, and you can get that down to a decent level again. 1.7 second aim time, though, is absolutely fantastic, and yeah, you'll have a great time with that aim time. It basically is always aimed, near enough. You've got a 0.4 intra-clip reload, which means, like you say, you just spit out the bullets. It spits the shells out. It's like the 1357 in that regard, that you just fire so quickly, you can rack up damage really, really fast. But realistically, when you are actually shooting at things, what feels like possibly a lot of damage is sometimes like 240, and then someone, like I say, turns around and just snaps you for 400, and you go, oh, yeah, okay. You got 2.7k raw DPM, but again... there's DPM, then there's usable DPM. This isn't always the case, because a lot of shells will bounce, and a lot of shells will miss the mark as well. Because of the way it's a full trigger down experience, it will miss a lot of shells, and it feels weird as well. There's a lot of shells that don't feel like they come out the gun right when you're firing them. It's just a bit odd. But, like, you can be leading a target and the shells just fly behind it and stuff like that. The gun feels a little bit odd at times, like some of the guns in Cold War do as well. In terms of penetration, you've got 216 on the standard pen and 236 on the premium. Now, 216 is actually middle of the road for a tier 9 light tank. It's not very good, realistically, at tier 9. You struggle against a lot of tier 10s, and realistically, as tier 9, you will see a lot of the tier 10 games. 236 is actually not that good for premium pen of a tier 9 light tank. The standard pen's pretty middle of the road, pretty decent. But the premium pen is actually not that good. And 236 is a bit of a struggle at tier 10, and there's a lot of tanks that you will just bounce off repeatedly, especially with the accuracy being annoying with its shells as well. You've got 1265 ammo speed on the AP, the standard round, and 1320 shell velocity on the premium APCR or APDS. They're both APDS, but yeah, the premium round at 1320. 1020 on the HE, but with 53mm of pen and only 100 damage as opposed to 80, it's a pointless shell to put in your tank. You may as well just run the standard shells to be able to at least try and pen things if you want to. And in terms of credits, it doesn't make any. So, because you're going to be firing a lot of premium with this tank, and trust me, you will need to fire a lot of premium in a lot of the matchups you end up in, because it will struggle to pen things, it doesn't really make that much credits either. So, for the amount of money that this tank costs, realistically, you're probably going to be a Warhammer fan if you're going to pick it up, because I don't think it's really worth the amount of gold it costs for the competitiveness of it. But like I say, it does have also the meme ability of the tank, right? It's like the 1357. It can, even though it's not that good, you can still have quite a few games which are really fun, even though you didn't really do too much. And you felt like you couldn't really do too much, just because you got to assassinate a couple of tanks. And it does feel incredibly satisfying when you do get to assassinate those tanks. It's a really, really nice meme for it. So in terms of the armour, because we're just going to have a look at this because it's been down, obviously down tiered to tier 9, and also it was a medium tank, now a light tank, sorry. The turret armour is worse than the STB-1, as you can see. It's 210 on that gun mantlet bit, but then it's... next one is 190, 170, 155, whereas if we look at the old STB-1, it's 240 on that gun mantlet spot, and then 220, 200, 195, etc. You can see the turret armour is worse. The turret armour will get absolutely buttered if you try and play hull down. Be very, very careful of that. It does have angles, which means it can bounce the odd shot here and there, just because, well, that's how angles work. It's like a Batchat, right? Batchat's got no armour, but it does bounce the odd shell here and there. And, yeah, the other thing that's actually weird about this tank is that the upper plate. The upper plate is actually better. It's got 55mm of armour on the top, and 80 on the lower bit of it, whereas the STB-1 actually has a worse upper plate. The STB-1 has 40mm, which means it can get overmatched by 121mm caliber guns and higher on that bit. But the same 80mm upper plate. It's really weird that that's actually got better frontal armour. Still useless, it still gets penned really, really easily all the time, but yeah. It's just something to note, it does have a slightly better armour profile, which is odd. Still got 35mm of side armour though, which means it gets overmatched by most guns at the tier that you're going to face. So if something hits your side, it can't really side scrape. If anything hits your side, it's just going to pen you. So in terms of equipment, I do run optics, the vert stabs to make the gun nicer, and camo net. I run the camo net to make my camo better. As you can see, we've got to do it down to 279 meters of still concealment. The vert stabs to make everything about the tank, well, sorry, not everything about the tank, everything about the gun better, like the accuracy during rotation and on movement, and optics to be able to spot for myself, because I am a light tank. I want to spot for myself. You could also run the traction system and the powertrain if you wanted to meme, just for pure raw speed. And as you can see, you get up to 71 kilometers an hour. I think it's 86 kilometers an hour in the travel mode. I'm going to have one replay for you to show the speed mode, you know, with the traction system and powertrain as well, just to show off the speed you can get up to. You can run that as well if you want, and just forsake the camo, think, yeah, I'm going to get spotted, and run around like a lunatic. But the gun also does feel a little bit worse doing that too, because naturally it is worse without the vert stabs. But that's probably the more competitive build that I would recommend for you guys. But yeah, it's down to you again, personal preference. That's not the crew. Where did I put the crew? I put it in the Nemesis. So let's put this crew back into the Teefbreaka. So for a crew on the Teefbreaka, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Deadeye, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Steady Aim. Now, you might be going, Deadeye? Why? Deadeye, because this thing spits out the bullets very, very quickly. Deadeye is one of those perks that is pretty good for using on those big boomsticks, so that you have more chance of getting those big ammo racks, or it's very good for the autocannon type tanks, because it's not very good on something like a Conqueror, for instance, which has got a standard 400 alpha gun, because, well, you're increasing your chance of doing module damage by 6%, you're only putting shots in every 7 or 8 seconds. With the big boomsticks, you've already got big module damage, so this is increasing the chance of getting those ammo racks with that big module damage. With the autocannons and the faster firing guns like this, sure, you don't have the highest module damage, but you're pumping so many shells into people that you're just increasing your chance of damaging their engines, setting them on fire, ammo racking them, etc., etc. with it. That's why I run it for that sort of meme, and it's quite good for tanks like this that will, you know, put 15 rounds into a tank in the blink of an eye. And again, it's like having it on the 4ADS 20mm gun in Cold War. The amount of fires you can spark is great. So yeah, all the gun perks as well to make sure that this gun is as good as it humanly can be, because it can be a little troll bugger. So you want to make it better. And camouflage expertise, because naturally you're a light tank, you want to be more stealthy. And these 4 perks, you're going to take on pretty much everything in World War II, at least. So let's have a quick look at the stats of the Teefbreaka with all of that pimped out. So as you can see, we have got better terrain resistances there. We've got nearly 500 meters of view range, 265 meters of still concealment. We've got 0.51 accuracy during rotation now, which is down from that 0.9, was it? Something like that, which is far better. Turret rotation speed is at 45.61, which is nearly catching up to that turret. Or should I say the tracks. We're down to 0.31 accuracy now. 1.75 accuracy during movement, which is down from that 3. That is a massive improvement, which is why I run the vert stabs and run and gun. You get a massive improvement out of that. 1.57 seconds on the aim time is really nice. Again, you knock it down to that. And as you can see, it's now gone up to like 3.2k DPM, because it's a 16.61 second reload, sorry. That's what you get it down to. Ignore what I said earlier on. But yeah, the Teefbreaka on the whole, for the 17k gold, is it worth it? I don't personally think so. I think that's far too expensive for a tank, especially a tank that's very incredibly situational. It's very situational, but it can have a meme. It can have a really good meme with this gun, because it's like a 57mm gun that just spits out the bullets really, really quickly. And when you decimate things that fast and take away, like, you know, a tenth of the health just so quickly, it can be just so satisfying when you do machine gun them. But on the whole, it's just, I don't think it's worth it. I don't really like the tank that much, personally. But, you know what, I'm going to take you to the replays, let you see it for yourself, let you see it in action, and see what you think. I'll give you the first replay, which is going to be with the powertrain and the traction system, to let you see the top speed, where you can meme around with that speed, and see how all of the rest of it performs generally, and then the actual standard build too. So, as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Teefbreaka STB-1, and as you can see, we are using the speed build, and as you can see with the little icon next to the HP bar, you can see we've got the turbo mode and the standard mode, or should I say the travel mode. We switch into that travel mode, and as you can see, the gun blooms out massively, and with the traction system and powertrain, you can see we're up to 87 kilometers an hour in this speed build, and you get to places very quickly. It's absolutely rapid in this mode. I can see fully why people would want to run this setup, because you can just absolutely sprint to places, which is lovely. You do have to be careful though, because as you just saw with that little slide, that wasn't intentional. The tank just decided it was going to slide. So you just got to be a little bit careful that it doesn't do that to you. So we're on airfield with this speed build, and I've pushed straight to this position here. I'm kind of sad with airfield in some points that, like this rock in front of us that you can see just on our right hand side where the ribbons are, has been extended from the original airfield, because that we can't quite get the shots at those guys where the 279 is and that, but we did manage to get a couple of shots into the UDES 1516, and we got up to 646 damage. I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and get into a position to shoot those guys over there, and I'm going to see if there's anything lurking over here near the cap. And as we rush over, we end up spotting 2 medium tanks, and it's like, well, I'm still in position now to get these shots, so this is great. So we start unloading on this VK4502B. We are safe from the medium tanks behind us by the rock, but then artillery starts looking at us, and I'm like, absolutely not. Get out of here, Mr. Artillery. We don't like piggies round here. And we did manage to get a few shots into that VK, though, which puts us up to 1200 damage. Like I say, it does rack up pretty quickly when you get to farm those shots out. And it's pretty damn memey as well, especially when you start popping the shots at people. So we decide to pop some shots at the 5100 there, but he ends up looking at us, and I was like, I'm not taking a shot there for just 2 shots of damage. In fact, it was only 80 damage we got into him. So we popped the speed mode, and you know what? I'm going to flank round and try and get behind these 2 guys and get some shots at them. But then I realised, oh no, that guy can see me. They sent the AVRE if I pop across this gap. And then we spot the 268 version 5, and I was like, hang on a minute, what's the 268 version 5? It's done absolutely nothing sitting in that corner. I don't understand why people go to that corner at B0, because sure, you can get the odd shot here and there at the people at D5, but if none of their team, or not many of their team, actually go this way, you're basically completely useless in that corner. If you were pushing up more into the corner at like B8 and using the rock there to stay covered, I could see it, but honestly, yeah, it's such a bad position to take. So you can see, we end up spotting this 50-100 from our position we're flanked back to, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take the hit just to unload all the clip into this 50-100 to kill him, because I know he's got a long intra-clip reload, and the fact that he fired, knew that I had chance to kill him, essentially, and we managed to clip him out. Again, that's where it's really satisfying. I knew that I could pen him with 216 pen pretty damn easily, and we managed to do it. The artillery was still trying to get us there, so thankfully it missed. That's why I didn't move when I was behind that rock, because I thought he's just going to take a shot at us. Like I say, fortunately, he didn't kill us. We do get 2 or 3 shots into that projectile 65 as he poked out to shoot at the AVRE, but I do feel like this guy is not going to come back out against an AVRE, because, well, if you drive out against an AVRE, it's going to end pretty badly pretty quickly, right? And so I'm thinking, right, okay, this Tyran and the Basante are going after this 268 version 5 in the corner. We're going to load premium so that we can actually pen the 268 version 5, because we're not going to pen it with the standard. And we're going to try and get up into a crossfire position to help these guys against this tier 10 TD, because obviously the 268 version 5 is a very deadly tank, and we want to be in a position to try and help our guys. So we're poking over. He is distracted, as you can see. We start pumping shots. He starts looking at us. Thankfully, he ends up, I think, firing and missing us there, and we just dump the rest of the clip in to finish him off. We're up to 3k damage with 189 assistance, and we end up spotting the 261 that was shooting at us earlier. We get the assistance on him as he dies, which is nice, and there's only 3 tanks left on the enemy team. This is the AVRE, that's at F9, the tank that was spotted at J9, and something else somewhere else on this map. So I decided, you know what, with this Mimi gun, we're going to go in on this AVRE, and we go in and start spamming the shots. And I think I can kill this guy before he gets round. No. I didn't want to move back round the back of him. As you can see where the UDES 1516 is spotted, that guy can kill me if I went round the back end of the AVRE, so I wanted to stay on this side, and unfortunately, that AVRE managed to get the shell round and shut us down. Which is really sad, because I did want that meme of just unloading there, but we did finish the game with 2 kills, 3.6k damage, 1400 assistance, the second class, 1472 base XP, which is a pretty damn nice game for the Teefbreaka. And I said, when you do get those positions like you saw with the AVRE, where you can just start spamming shells into the side of people, it's just so memey that you're just watching this like 80, 80, 80, 80 popping up, and you go, I had 0 damage a minute ago, and now within like 7 or 8 seconds I've done 1400 or whatever. That's crazy. It's like 1357, right? It's that same sort of enjoyment of watching the numbers rack up really quickly and just having that pop, pop, pop feeling about the gun. So we're on to the second replay, and this second replay is without the speed mode. It's actually with the standard build, and yeah, this is probably the more average, frustrating game that I have had in this tank, to be perfectly honest, where there's just not much opportunities to do anything. Where you do poke, you get spotted and slapped, and it's just really a bit irritating. But it still does have that little bit of that meme to it, where we do manage to get to a position to shoot something. So we're here on Hidden Village, which there's not many places I can go on Hidden Village in this tank realistically to have fun, because this thing wants to flank round behind people in big open spaces and get surprise shots into the side of people. But this map is a lot of corridors, and it doesn't do too well with the corridors. So we pop over, try and get just a couple of beam shots into the Progetto, but as we poke over, the CS63 manages to pop a shot at us and pen us through the turret, which is sad times. I was just thinking I'll try and make it look like I'm running away a little bit from the enemy team, because they were looking our way. Fortunately enough, that Object 780 actually misses us, so it's like, well, I'm going to just pop some shots at this guy. And I say this is where it can be pretty fun, when you actually have the opportunity to do that, you know, damage, where you're just unloading the machine gun on people. It's pretty damn fun to do. But realistically, if I was in any other light tank there, I probably would have got, say if I was in the lightweight, for example, I would probably have got 1 or 2 shots into that guy and done 500 damage. Done the same amount of damage, but not had to expose myself for nearly as long to unload those shells, right? And I probably wouldn't have even been spotted, to be honest, in the lightweight. But then again, the EBR-90 is the one that's actually lighting us up. This is actually a light tank killer, though. That is one thing that this tank can do pretty damn effective. You can see we poke up on him and get snapped by the 63 again. Yeah, this is a light tank killer. If you can get into a one-on-one brawl with a light tank that isn't an auto-loader, and I'd stress that acutely, if it's not an auto-loader like 1390, 13105, all that good stuff, you can wreck their face so quickly, because you'll drive in. You have weight behind you, so you can ram light tanks for a good amount, by the way. And you can absolutely machine gun them with this gun. And the reason I say don't go for the autoloaders is because those tanks, while they won't ram you for very much, those light tanks will shred you far quicker than you shred them, unless you get a fire with this gun, which is something that can happen. So as you can see, we're on 491 damage. I've changed up my tactics. I've gone for the flanking maneuver, and this 268 is spotted as he's going up into the little hill area. So it's like, well, let's unload. As you can see, we're still slamming the shots in, and then we run out of shells. We're up to 1,300 damage like that. We gained, what, nearly 1,000 damage from all those shells onto that 268 in the blink of an eye. Again, it's where the meme is. We're up to 1,300 damage. Just looking for some shells at that CS63. Can't quite see them. Seeing if we can see any get other shells into that town area. Can't quite do it. Then we end up hopping down a little bit, and just out of the blue, we end up losing quite a bit of hit points trying to come off that rock. Really annoying. But we spot this 260. He's in a position where he's facing our team. He is distracted. So we're going to get up and try and distract him so that our team can move forward. And, well, if I distract him, maybe they'll push forward and into him. We managed to dump the whole clip into that guy. And we go up an extra 1,000 damage there, which is really nice. Like I say, it's so satisfying when you get that clip. But I make it look like I'm running away. He then starts focusing on the TD and the heavy tank that are coming in front of him. The other bat chat's unloading into him as well, and we managed to finish him off. We're up to 2.5k damage. The CS63 is running away. I'm like, okay, it's time to get some shells into this guy, and this is where you can get distracted by firing into the clip. And unfortunately, we get shut down by the CS52 lease, and we finished the game with 1 kill, 2.6k damage. The second class, 1,185 base XP, a pretty meh game for the Teefbreaka, but that's the sort of frustrating game that happens a lot, where you go, I can't do anything in this mission, I've got to flank round and go somewhere else, and then you flank to somewhere else and you can't really do too much. And then when you start to have that joy of unloading, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I've been killed. Because everything just hits it all the time. As you can see, we were barely poking over the ridge, and the CS63 just kept clapping us constantly. So we're on to the third replay. In the third replay, we are on Arctic region. This T-49 is a danger to us, but fortunately enough, he missed his first shot, and I think, you know what, we're going to start dumping shells into this guy. We take a hit from a light tank that's already at C8, which is unfortunate. This T-49 is actually quite clearly loaded again. I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep popping the shots, and unfortunately, we ricocheted 2 or 3 shells. If we hadn't ricocheted 2 or 3 of those shells, we would have killed that guy before he got the shot off, but unfortunately, he did manage to get the shot off, but he didn't pen us, which is a miracle, because he probably would have done most of the time. We're up to 844 damage, though. We've taken this position off that T-49, which is nice, because this is a very strong position for our team on assault. It completely cuts off their attack up this 9 line. You can just completely stop them. You can get shots into the side, and if you've got people sitting at C9, they can also shoot them from there as well, so it creates a crossfire. It's such a good place to take if you can get to it. And obviously a tank like the STB-1 or the Teefbreaka STB-1, with this speed mode, you can take positions like that pretty aggressively, pretty nicely. So right here, I'm up to 76 kilometers an hour, as you can see, with the speed mode. I was thinking of rushing into the links and just absolutely YOLOing him, but then this Death Star gets spotted on the other ridge, so it's like, well, okay then, let me just unload. And as you can see, unfortunately, we end up ricocheting those last few shells because he managed to pull back. I was hoping I could try and retrack him and just get those final pens in, but it is what it is. And now we're going to try and go after that links. But he ends up getting shut down, so I'm thinking, you know what? Screw it. Let's go and try and get behind these guys. Currently, there's a lot spotted, and most of the other tanks that possibly are on the 9 line are going to be at F9. So it's like, let's try and get to a position where we can flank round and get shots into their ass, or try and shoot these guys like where this mediums are at G3. We get a few shots into the cupola of that 59 pattern, but with our 212 pen, we really aren't guaranteed to go through that thing at all. It's more likely less than a 50-50 chance. We did get a few pens into it though. We're up to 2k damage of 517 assistance. Reloading the next clip, and here we are in the flanked position on this Panther 2. It's like, hello, Mr. Panther 2. Let me just fire the shots out and finish you off. Fortunately enough, he ends up missing us. I poke over, get a shot into the top of the AVRE, and I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that, sir. You cannot. Nope, you are not just going to one-shot me. We're not having this discussion, sir. Get out of here. So instead, I decide to go back into the travel mode, speed up behind these guys if I can and get some shots into their rear, hopefully, because I'll be distracted. But unfortunately for me, the AVRE is already looking my way. It's like, what? No, sir, leave me alone. And I can't quite poke to get a shot into the rear of this E4 and 257. This is an absolute disaster because that AVRE was already looking. Now the E4's coming over and the 257's turning around. It's like, no, I cannot stay here. I've got to get out of Dodge. Mr. Light Tank, we have to go. These guys are just going to turn around and absolutely destroy us because we've got no backup behind us. And unfortunately for the LTTB, he does get wrecked. But we're in the speed mode. We're getting away. I'm not doing it, AVRE. We're not having this discussion. Get out of here. As you can see, I'm just making it look like I am running away at full tilt, because that way they might think about not chasing me. And as you can see on the map, it worked. He's stopped dead at G9. The TD's turn around, same as the medium. And they're clearly going back to face the guys behind them because they're pushing in. So they're not chasing me, which means I'm actually quite safe to do what I want to do now. And I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to push along the J line and get right into the corner at K1. That way I can get some flanking shots at this AVRE. And anything that was spotted, and it is spotted at F2, I can also get some flanking shots into them. I'm possibly going to get spotted by this AVRE, but at the minute, I wasn't in the speed mode, but I've now turned into the speed mode to make sure I have the pure speed to get myself into this corner and stay safe from the AVRE. Because I know I can get into this corner, I can get hulled down, and I can use the ridge lines to stay safe from him. And as you can see, we've managed to get into the corner, get unspotted. We go back into the fighting mode to make sure our gun is as good as possible. And here we've got the Tortoise's rear. It's like, well, hello, Mr. Tortoise. Let me just unload on you. That other AVRE is now distracted with the heavy tank, so I can stay safe just pumping the final shells into this guy. And we rack up quite a bit of damage just getting that satisfying unload on the Tortoise. We're up to 3.3k damage and 517 assistance. The AVRE gets shut down. There's only 3 tank destroyers left. There's the Turan, which is in that corner at G1. There's this TD that's just got spotted in front of me, UDES, which I'm not going to pen. I don't think, because I think it is modelled on a 57mm gun, so I'm not actually going to pen the UDES. But we unload the shells into the back of this Tortoise. We've got like 3 shells left. Let's go after this UDES. We fire the final 3. Nope, none of them pen. Well, ram. Get out of here, Mr. UDES. So it's just the Turan left, which is in this corner. We know it was spotted at G1, which is going to be a bit of a pain because he can finish me off, and I don't want to get finished off. As you can see, we get detected the moment we poke. And that's because we can't see him. We're, what, 150 metres away from this guy. We're a light tank with 390, with maxed out view range. We're up to 499 metres view range, and we just cannot see this Turan. He can see me. I can't see him. I boost my view range with food to try and devalue his camo. He clearly fires at someone, which destroys his camo, and thus we get to machine gun him and finish him off. And we finished the game with 4 kills, 4.4k damage. The victory, 1732 base XP, 517 assistance. The first class and top of the team, which is a really nice game for the Teefbreaka. Like I say, you have to really get used to its playstyle. It's one of those that takes a lot to get the most out of. You have to get used to the playstyle. You have to get used to the fact that you have to flank, you have to get round to the sides of people, and even then that's not good enough at times. You can only get 2 or 3 shots, and just be content with the fact that you might only get 2 or 3 shots of the clip into the side of someone, and then you'll have to run away because they will look at you. And you also have to be content with the fact that if you do get spotted when you're travelling at speed, the likelihood is people will still absolutely slap you up and hit you really easily, because you're not like you're a Vanguard, not like you're a G-Saw or something like that. You are a big boy, and as being a big boy, you're fairly easy to hit, unfortunately, for yourself. So we're on to the final replay, and this is the best game I've had in the tank. And we're on Great Wall, which again is not the best map for the Teefbreaka, if I'm totally honest. And I decided to just YOLO up the middle road to try and spot anything that was coming up the 4 line, and then again YOLO straight into this middle area because I wanted to be on this hill, but I decided that I was going to sort of go an aggressive spotting way about it because I do have that mad speed. So the guy next to me poked over and shot at the T49, ends up spotting this AVRE, and this is the reason I wanted to be here, is because I can get some of these shots at these guys without, you know, with them being distracted with what's in front of me. We do get a couple of shots into the T49, which puts up 317 damage, but unfortunately he did also get a shot into me. And we're just trying to get another shot into him. The AVREs in front of me are fired, so I'm thinking, you know what, I can get some shots into this T49, but some poor marksmanship and some bad RNG means that we just don't hit him. And then I think the medium tank next to me has just run away. What's he doing? Oh, wait, there's Oh, wait, that's 2 AVREs and a Super Conqueror with just an M48 pattern and myself. Yeah, no, I've learnt my lesson. I'm not going to just sit here and try and dump my clip, because the moment they look at me, I'm going to die. We need to run away from that situation, because we're not going to be able to do anything at all. All we'll be is cannon fodder in that situation. So what we're going to do is come over here, because nothing has been spotted so far over along this one line. We end up coming over to see this E100. We get 1 or 2 shots into the E100, but again, we're not going to pen that guy we're standing around, so we put the premium in, boost our reload with food so that we can get the shells in. And I am wanting to basically go over with this medium tank and get the shots in. The E100 YOLO's over, so it's like, okay, you know what, let's get up behind this Centurion AVRE and start pumping the shells into his side. So we start pumping the shells in, but just as I decided to come in and try and get the assassination shot on this AVRE, or should I say the assassination run, the Skoda did the exact same thing, and he actually ended up turning around for us, which meant that we didn't get half of the shots we wanted to into that guy, and we had a high likelihood of death, which is not good. Never good to have a high likelihood of death, but fortunate enough for me, he's fired this time. We get the shots in to finish him off, and we managed to avoid being shot by that mouse shin that's behind us, which is decent because of the rocks. We're up to 1,029 damage, and right now, what I want to do is get past this mouse chin and go up the 1-2 line and go hunt the artillery. That's what I want to do right now. I don't really want anything to do with this mouse chin because it's not going to go well. They do have quite a bit still up there at G5, so I don't want to go flank round him and try and just farm some shots into the side of him, because the likelihood is they could turn around and shoot me. So the mouse chin ends up firing, and I'm like, okay, this is the perfect chance to get him into a crossfire and run away from him, get some shots into his side as we're moving. And this is where you're probably best just to not hold the trigger, because we end up shooting a lot of the ridgeline. And yeah, it's like, well, goodbye, Mr. Mauschin. I'll let my E4, my Skoda, and my other heavy tank deal with you. I'm going to go get rid of this artillery, get rid of the piggy for my team, because that is always a great thing to do. But unfortunately, we're getting here and we're not finding the piggy. It's like, there's no piggy to be had here. Okay, well, this is unfortunate. Let's go and try and get up their hill. And it's like, oh, there's a griller. Hello, Mr. Griller. Let me just dump my clip into you, sir. That's fine. As you can see, the shells are a bit weird in this, because it does have like 1,200 meters a second shell velocity, but it doesn't feel like it. And they seem to just come out a little bit skew-if at distance when you're firing. It's a little, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to me firing the shells in this gun as opposed to firing a normal 105. But I was thinking of coming up here, but I think, you know what? No, screw it. I'm going to go for the meme. I'm going to go unload all of my clip into this griller. I could take a hit from him, but I'm just going to go for the meme and absolutely wreck him with my machine gun. And as we're charging towards the griller, we end up getting spotted, and it's a first time spot of Waffle Panzer IV behind him, and I'm thinking, oh god. Thankfully he ends up missing, and I know this griller's going to have turned around, but he has, but oh well. We're going for the Mimi shells. We end up ricocheting a few shells, so I make sure that I'm going to aim the shells into his lower deck, and we get to shut down that Griller 15. I knew I was going to take the hit, but I just wanted the Mimi time of just going, hello friend, you know. Machine gun goes, that's what you want to do. We're up to 3.2k damage, and we've got the flanking shots onto this 60 TP now. We get the shots in to shut him down, which is nice, and we pop the reload straight away, because we may as well be fully loaded for the next time we go after a tank. There's still a heavy tank at G4. The medium tank is just pushed down to B4 behind us. I didn't realise it at the time early enough that I probably could have farmed him, but just as we're coming down, it's like, oh, hello, Mr. Piggy. We end up getting airtime there, which loses his health as well. It's like, well, get out of here, Mr. Piggy. We know the Waffle Panzer IV is somewhere over here. I imagine he's gone behind that hill in front of me, because that's where I imagine he'd be safe, and he can basically get the first shot off no matter what. So I'm anticipating he is directly behind us. So we're going to get to this ridge as quickly as possible, but then try and be careful. We're just keeping an eye on the right to see if he's there, but he is there on the left. And this is where it's awkward, because I can't do anything against this, because if I want to flank round behind him, I have to go all the way round, which means I'm not going to get there before he gets wrecked by my whole team, and someone takes a hit and they just all die. Well, he dies, I should say. And so we pop a shot at the Waffle. We miss the shot, and I'm just waiting for my team to get here so that one of those with the hit points can take a shot or could possibly bounce him. He ends up firing, which is the cue. It's like, hello, Mr. Waffle Panzer IV. We're going to now unload on you, my friend. And we absolutely machine gun him. And unfortunately, we don't quite get the kill. The projectile 65 manages to get it. But we pop the reload instantly. we see it's Lehman Russ, so we're like, okay, no, we're going to load the premium. And then it's like, oh, God, this guy's got 76 hit points. Sure, we could kill him in one shell, but he's going to kill us in one shell, and we're not going to pen that from the front. That's going to be exceptionally awkward to deal with. You know what? We're going to try and flank round in the anticipation that people might possibly be a little bit less aggressive, right? They might see the Lehman Russ and just be a bit tentative with it. I'm just going to pop the speed mode, go at 75 kilometers an hour, and try my best to flank round behind him and get shots into him, because you never know, I just didn't want to drive directly in front of him. But Waffle Panzer IV deals with it easy enough, and we finished the game with a really nice total for the Teefbreaka, which was the best game I've had. Finished with a victory, 3 kills, 5k damage, 81 direct hits, as you can see, ace tanker, the 1821 base XP, a really nice game for the Teefbreaka. A tank that is pretty memey, and like I say, it takes a hell of a lot to get the most out of it. You really need the right maps to get the flanking shots in and keep spanking. And yeah, it's a fat boy, so it tends to get hit a lot, which is something you've got to be very, very careful of. On the whole, I don't think it's worth the money. I'd definitely say wait for the discount if you do like the look of the tank, because you'll get it for a lot less than 17k gold. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!